Chase, is that you on the iPhone?
Yes, it is. Greeting to everyone here.
Greetings, my brother. How are you?
Future Honorable Johnson. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Well.
Definitely, we have to do a follow up after we get us some outlines, some information, and troubleshoot. And we got to do a follow up so where we can do a webinar. Webinar will allow us to share it live Facebook. But I'm the pro. I think I'll have to either use the NAACP account or update my Zoom account. A few more minutes, family. A few more minutes. Get in contact with Ms. Edwards. Yeah, Ms. Johnson, this is very new to me. Usually, I'm so used to organizing and coordinating and promoting physical events to where this Zoom thing is something new.
Yeah.
Is that right, Miss Holloway?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Mr. Kirk.
I said a Zoom meeting is something new.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, 'cause I don't ever really use Zoom. A lot of people do.
Right. Mr. Brock, how you doing, my dear brother?
I'm doing good, brother. How you doing, man? How you doing? You looking good, champ.
Thank you, dear brother. Thank you. Reflection of my brother.
Brother Robinson.
In the flesh.
Hey, Dr. Bay and NAACP, brother, I need to order about 10 of those hats. How can I acquire 10 of those hats?
I can get them for you, man. I'm selling them out my store in honor of our ancestors.
So what I can do is I can also put, we'll talk. Let's exchange information after this, I guess, through Brother Kurt, and I'll see about putting some of this information on the website, okay?
I'm looking for Marlon and Mr. Shelton and Melanie and Miss Edwards. I just got in touch with all them three of them is trying to get on. So just y'all be patient with us because I need them in this conversation. And forgive me for any mistakes we make here today, but this, we're gonna get better at this. Jihad, I seen you finally figured it out, didn't you?
I think I got it figured out, bro. I'm still struggling. I think I got it figured out.
Miss Holloway's gonna figure it out. She stay on social media. Miss Edwards, I seen you coming.
Mr. Kirk, you gotta stop talking about me, Mr. Kirk.
Yes, ma'am, I sure will. Miss Edwards. Ms. Edwards, you're muted.
Mr. Kirk, call me when this meeting's over. Did you see my text I sent you?
1 o'clock this morning? I sure did. I seen it this morning when I got out of bed.
Call me later.
Okay. Ms. Edwards, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, awesome.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. We can hear you. It's some computer one. I see
Okay,
computer one.
great.
There go my guy. Melanie, is Melanie on?
We don't have the best internet in these parts.
Miss Edwards, you already know, my dear sister.
Okay. I'm glad you guys waited for me.
Yeah, we're gonna get started in a few minutes. We waiting on one more participant. Marlon, I see you.
Okay.
Computer one. Who's showing up computer one? And just iPhone. I'm looking for Melanie.
Kurt, are you the host of this call?
I am, my brother.
You can click on each person's name, like where you say iPhone at.
Right.
You can click on those dots and change their name to whoever they are.
Okay. Well, that's it. We got some experts on here that's gonna help us out today, and I'll be better next time.
It's all good, man. I spend 12 hours a day on Zoom.
Well, okay, my brother.
Oh, wow.
You most definitely gonna show me how to make this thing go live next time. What account do I have to make it go live?
Any account should be able to go live. You want to go live now? All right. So if you're the host, in between reactions, do you see reactions?
I do.
End? Right, but it should be 3 dots in between those spaces.
That's what I'm saying. I don't see the 3 dots.
Interesting. So is this your account and you're logged into it?
I am.
Yeah, it should be right there. And this is a paid account, I'm assuming, because
it is.
Yeah, they should be there already. Whenever I start a Zoom, and I'm hosting it, the 3 dots pop up automatically, and then it allows me to go live.
I don't know why it's
Did you have to connect your Facebook prior to?
Nope.
Okay.
You're trying to go live on Facebook, right?
Right.
Yeah, it should be there. Show me as host real quick. Let me see if I can see it.
How I do that?
Just click on my name, on my picture. There's 3 dots on the right-hand side.
I see that.
Click on those 3 dots and it says you can change my role.
I'm seeing what it says: start video, chat, rename, pin video, spotlight video, mark, make host.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Nature. And so when our children aren't seeing themselves in the education that's being provided to them, not that we aren't there, because history is what it is. So we know that we have contributed to the building of this society. We've contributed to the building of the entire world. But when they give us the education, it's always skewed in a way that kind of isolates us or pulls us out of that equation. And so our children become disinterested. And so one of the things I think we do a disservice, or disservice has been done to us, in that we don't educate our own.
Right.
And because we have a system where we literally take our children and send them off to people that we, as a community overall, say don't really care about us. And so we send our children there to be educated by them. And so that handicaps us. So the change that I would see, I would segregate the schools. Or separate, excuse me, we're already segregated as a community. I would separate the schools. I think integration was an absolute handicap for us as a community, because what happened during integration is that we integrated into their school system, into their society, and the things that we had because when we were separated, we had to have our own schools. We had our own teachers, we had our own educators, we had our own superintendents and principals. But once we integrated, we lost a lot of that. So now we have some that are in the school system as educators. There's some principals, there's some superintendents, but for the most part, we don't. And so our children don't see, again, themselves in the picture. They don't see that, oh, I can become that. And so we have somebody that may or may not tell our children, yes, you can become whatever your dreams, as they teach us, what the mind can conceive, the body can achieve.
Right.
So they may be saying that, but they may be. But then again, you may have some that are telling them, oh, well, that's really not for you. And so part of, when Sister was talking about the parental control and allowing the parent, yes, the parents have an outstanding obligation to make sure that when we do, unfortunately, we don't have those at this time our own. So when our children come home, we have to debrief them. We have to make sure that, okay, what did you learn today? What was talked about in school? And then we have to have an obligation to make sure that what our children are being given and what they're being taught is something that is good and is beneficial for them. We can't excuse ourselves and step solely away from the educational system. But that would be the one thing that I would change, Brother Kurt. I would take us and separate. The documentation says separate but equal. And so making sure that our schools are up to par with all the other schools. But we have to have a way, we have to be willing to take on that responsibility as a community. If we're going to say that we want to be accepted in this society, we want equality, we want justice, then we have to share in that same type of responsibility. And responsible people manage all of their affairs.
Awesome, my brother. Awesome. And brother, that brings me to, I see my sister she got a DR in front of her name, and I know she can. My sister's worked on both sides, right? I know she was working in Southwest, and then she went out to Bryant. Am I right, Melanie?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm back out in Southwest now. I'm in Mapleville Middle.
So she can basically attest to what you're saying, Brother Kenny. And so she's worked with both sides of the fence, we'll say. So Melanie, if you could change anything, sister, to help our children, what would it be? Because I know your heart is deep into it. When I first met you, you reached out to us as members of the Nation of Islam to deal with the young men, because that's what we specialize in. So I know in order to reach out to us at the time, right, pulling us in to assist you, then you were serious about change. So what would it be that, I heard what Brother Kenny said, and I'm sure you can add to or give your insight on to what he just spoke.
Sure. Greetings to everybody. Hey, Brother Kenny, he came to Mapleville and accepted my request. I think per your recommendation, Brother Kirk.
Yes,
so he came out and helped speak with our brothers, and I know Brother Jihad has also worked with us. So hello to all of you wonderful brothers who I've worked with before, and to everybody that's here today. So in my role
and family, Dartha Holloway.
Oh, hey, Miss Holloway. So we share family members.
Yes.
Yeah, so good to see you as well, Miss Dorothy. Very good to see you.
Thank you. You too.
So in my position where I am, I've gained my PhD in reading education, and I only say that because you're looking at the way your educators are being educated to teach all children. And there are a lot of gaps there. And so that's where you need to see more ebony in the ivory. So that's where you need to see more Black faces in higher ed that are making decisions on the type of curriculum that is being pushed as requirements for teachers to get their licensure and to remain a certified teacher. a huge gap in what I work on and what I have a passion for and what I teach on my own with my Scholars for the Soul educational consulting firm is culturally responsive teaching. So when you're looking at what culturally responsive teaching does is it allows every educator to work with the mindset of taking your learners from a dependent to an independent status. And you use culturally relevant materials, things that are connected to them, to their history, to their identities, to their backgrounds. You bring that in as your leverage piece for bridging old to new information and concepts. So students see themselves through windows and through mirrors. So they have that representation piece, whether that's occurring in the literacy choices that the teachers use. So I was able to work on the essential standards team for Little Rock School District for the 7th grade. And I had the blessing of being able to recommend novel choices. And you better believe they were Black and brown all the way through. And I got positive feedback from other educators in the district. And I will have to go in next week when we have our PD and explain to them the importance of these novels that show different perspectives of different students so that they can represent a culturally diverse mindset.
Right.
So that's just something that if I could change, it would be the way that our educators are educated. Even now, you have more so of things that are trending, things that are buzzwords. You had a lot of teachers on Instagram and a lot of people hype about this anti-racist teaching. You know, it was a big thing to say that, and you saw that even with brands and companies making their Black statements of solidarity, so to speak, quote unquote. But it's all about them putting that message out that they want to appear to be on the side that we're on, or the side for the Black Lives Matter, or the side for Black empowerment. And so you have these teachers saying those things, but then after the buzz fades off, you're going back to teaching as normal. And what we have with teaching as normal is a group or groups of students who are continuously marginalized and oppressed through the structural racism that exists on the educational level. So it goes like the young lady was talking about when you're dealing with foster children and children who are enduring those less than desirable home environments and the systems that they go through. It's the same paradigm that guides all of those systems, is that there is a certain group that's going to be supreme, and then there are power dynamics that must be in play. And us as a people tend to be on the lower end of that stick, and that's very prevalent in education. You look at your school to prison pipeline. Look at how young Black girls are traditionally, if you look at Push Out by Monique Morris, and they talk about how the adultification of young Black children. So you have young Black girls who are seen as adults just because their bodies may be growing, but they could be 9 or 10, but they're treated as young adults. So they're pushed out of the classroom. They're suspended at higher rates. Expelled, put out of class, sent out of the learning environment. So actually, there's a violation of their right as a student to receive this free public education because you're not receiving it in ISS. You're not receiving it when you're at home. And nowadays, kids are happy to go home because that means they can play the game because mama got to still go to work, correct? So, you know, you have that. It's not about looking at, if I suspend a student, what is the solution? Now, there are times where if a student is being violent, they may need to exit that place. I'm not talking about those extremes. I'm talking about you are upset because a child doesn't have a pencil, or a child won't pull their pants up. So now they're getting put out of the classroom and suspended. And so now they're getting this track record within the district that says that this is labeled a trouble child, because you better believe they're talking from grade to grade about these children, and they're our children. And I have to make this point. Well, what are we going to do? So I teach this thing called restorative justice that is a part of culturally responsive teaching. And you may see things like that or things that hope to be that. And there are some places where it may have been successful, but more in the prison system. Because think about that. Is it really set to redeem the brothers and sisters that are there, or is it really set to trap you to come back in so we can keep our beds filled, because we know that's bringing in the bottom line?
Yes, ma'am.
So that same thought pattern is there when you're dealing with education and you look at that school to prison pipeline, because now these students' social emotional health is dwindling, because now they're seeing themselves in the same mirror that the teacher is giving them, that you're a failure, you're not worthy of instruction, you're not worthy of my quality time, you're not worthy to be in my classroom, thus I'm going to put you out. And I want to keep you out because that's a break for me. I've heard these words. These are the things that are happening with our students. That's why it is of the higher importance that our teachers and educators, when they're going through programs, you have people with Teach for America. Some of them are wonderful, but some of them have just graduated high school. They've been in college a couple years. They don't know anything about Black and brown kids, and they want to come save our babies because they think they're our savior. So they come in wanting to save them, and they do a greater disadvantage because now this is beyond them. They didn't sign up for this, and now you have that high teacher turnover rate, and we can never keep teachers in the profession, because after the first 3 years, if they don't stay, if they can't handle that classroom management, they don't have mentors, that's what they should be changing. Our new teachers especially, but even teachers where you get students who are reporting racism, are you valuing those reports? What are we doing about the teachers that are telling these kids and making racist statements? What do we do about the teachers when I'm working in Bryan that are allowing students to have jokes about pulling cotton out of the medicine bottle because that's resemblance of slavery? And this was just a couple years ago. What do you do with those complaints? So we have to get more of us, especially in those cities that are outside of Little Rock, into the mainframe and into higher education. So I know that was a lot, but you know I can get
That was right on point, my sister. That was right on point.
It was right on time.
That was most definitely on point, and I could even flow with everything that you were saying, because I mean, like I said, I talked to Marlon. I called Marlon not too long ago, and was troubleshooting with him, because I don't have a clue, because that is not my it's my concern. Our children, our children, they're my concern, because we have to. Brother Kenny and I and Brother Jihad, we have to meet them, and Marlon, he meets them in the juvenile detention center. We have to meet them in the prison system, So how do we stop that? How do we stop up that pipeline to keep them from coming from the school to prison? So we're gonna. I want to hear from Marlon on what you and Brother Kenny and just spoke about, and we want to keep in mind, Brother Raymond was talking about the cell phone, and Ms. Edwards was talking about. Bringing the discipline back into the house, and we got a story I want to hear from Chase, Mr. Bay, in a few minutes, and that the system and how he's dealing with the educational department as we speak. But I want to hear from Marlon, and we're gonna get some insight on from Ms. Johnson. Then I want to hear from Jihad and all this, because Pine Bluff he lives in Pine Bluff, and when I tell you about the school system in Pine Bluff, Washington Chapel, Dollaway. I mean, it's a horrible school system when it comes to dealing with the parents and the children. So Marlon, from sitting here and listening and observing, my brother, because I know you deal with the troubled part of the school system. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you've been in it for a long time. And your heart is in it, from I already know you have a beautiful heart. This guy I grew up with, he went to college and I went to prison. So, but here we are right now on the same path, 26 years later. But Marlon, from what you've heard, my brother, please give some input and some expertise on what we should do to better help our children, our situation.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, from my perspective, I've been doing this for about 22 years, dealing directly with the kids that's I call it the trenches. And that's directly the kids that's having the behavior issues and going straight to, juvenile and dealing with the mental health therapy and things like that. Our biggest issue is we have no resources for these kids. And that as a community, that's what we're gonna have to do, is start finding avenues to provide some type of resources for these kids. Like, man, I'm getting approached almost daily by these parents that's struggling. They in a survival mode with their kid, and they basically asking, what can I do? Where can I send them? What kind of program can I put them in? If we look at the kids that we're talking about the bottom socioeconomic status class of kids. So the reason I brought up socioeconomic status is because those are predominantly the families that need the support. Can y'all hear me?
We can hear you, Marlon.
Yeah. Those are predominantly the families that need the support. So the problem with the school system is that a lot of these kids, they're going home and they're going to broken homes, dysfunctional homes. They're not getting the educational support. They're not getting pushed by their parents as far as from education. And then we're sending them to school and expecting for them to be able to do something that they're not getting the training at home to do. So we need a lot of programs, mentoring programs that can help these families. And one lady was saying, educate the families on finance, educate them on parenting, educate them on problem solving, teach them how to do some different coping skills. We so in tune to whooping our kids that we forgetting to nurture them. And that's one of the problems. Our kids not getting nurtured. They're getting yelled at and cursed at. They're getting left at home by themselves. They're not getting hugged. Nobody's ever telling them they're doing well. And we're expecting for them to go to school and be able to perform. And I think we're missing the point, to be honest with you. And I started my own mentoring program myself, and I have a bigger impact on some of the kids that's been in trouble, in juvenile, than their parents and the teachers have on them, just by playing basketball with them. So I know that some of this stuff will work, but there's not many resources out there. One of the other things that we miss kids' talents all the time. I'm running into kids that can draw, that can go out there and turn flips. There's no gymnastic program for African-American kids around here, but I got kids that can tumble a basketball court, but there's nothing fundamental to put them in. I got kids that can draw faces. There's nothing fundamental to put them in. We have a lack of resources when it comes to supporting our kids, but we expect for them to be able to function. And that's not gonna happen. I mean, I understand what the lady was saying is putting people in education in a higher level, and I think we need that as a voice, but I think our foundation is broken at the bottom. So the top not gonna move until we figure out the bottom. Kurt, that's what I was trying to explain to you. Until we can figure out the bottom, we're not gonna move forward as a culture, as a race. We got the Black Lives Movement movement. In my opinion, this should have started in our community years ago. Why do we have to wait for these tragedies to happen to try to get white folks to get on board to have a Black rights movement? That's something we need to do. We still killing each other at alarming rates, but we asking them to do things for us that we're not even doing for ourselves. To me, it started in the community. And I'm just saying that because I've been out here for 20-something years. I'm watching kids get placed in these services that the services really don't even care about the kids. It's about generating revenue. Hey, you can have a kid. I got kids in my program. If everything check out, hey, see the kid. As soon as a Medicaid number don't work or insurance number don't work, don't see the kid. You know, what type of programs are we providing for them to be able to be successful? And I think it starts with trying to streamline some of these kids in the community, find the ones that's performing poorly at the schools, and trying to find community-based programs to get those kids in and take some pressure off the schools. These teachers in survival mode 5 weeks into school, they ready for the summer break. And you think they're gonna be able to teach these kids and they ready to be at home 5 weeks into school? Because our kids are going to school, and I'm there every day, and they going there for a social club. Hey, they got, like my guy said, they got phones. They on YouTube and Kick It and Snapchat in the middle of the classroom. So we can't expect for them to be able to perform if we're not going to be able to find avenues to get them more support. And that's just my opinion on it.
Okay, that's awesome, Marlon. It's all falling right in with the rest of the panelists. And so we're going to give Ms. Johnson, who is running for 10th District Circuit Court Judge in the Juvenile Division, an opportunity to address what she's just heard and see how, because my thing is this, I understand policy and procedures, and I understand systems because I'm always around an organized organization, or, you know, from the jobs I work, you know, and dealing with policy and procedure. So when things are already set in place and in stone, then we're dealing with because we know 9 times out of 10 she won't see the children who don't have what they consider behavior issues. She'll see those who are considered who are considered to have behavior issues, whether it's you know, I ain't paying attention right now, I'm doodling when I should be reading, or, you know, I'm talking when I should be studying, or whatever the case may be, that like Melanie was saying, that starts the trend down that line. So Ms. Johnson, what can you give us from what you've heard so far?
Well, first I'd like to say it's important to me in the position that I'm seeking to consider community voices, because true reconciliation and justice requires a holistic approach. So I'm enjoying hearing all the different viewpoints that you guys have. And I would add that we shouldn't buy into the idea that there's no money to support for our kids. We need to demand this money for our kids. They are our priority, and the white students in other areas and other districts, for them to distribute that money to us. And an important part of that too, one thing that's going on right now that I know from talking to people just in general, is the census. You know, the census every 10 years, that if people don't fill out the census in these different communities in our community, you don't count. You don't count some of those resources and those dollars that we're talking about that we need. They won't be. It's a basis for them not to allocate it to you because you don't exist. And so, in this position, and I think it's very important for the vision that I have for the judiciary, as far as collaborative processes, as far as more technology and things like that, for the community as a whole to fill out the census and be counted, so those resources be available. Also band together, so for in instances where there isn't any money, like to make our own tables, you know, to do the work necessary to not solely to rely on government resources and aid to address the issues within our community. And to your point about, as a juvenile judge, I would see some of these kids in 2 settings. One setting would be if they're 10 years, between 10 and 17, and they've committed a crime, right? And they're determined to be delinquent. Or in a dependency neglect setting, you know, or the families in need of service setting. So those other 2 settings, I can see kids from birth all the way up to 18, because the courts, a lot of these kids that are coming into the juvenile justice system, there are issues or other things that are going on in a home that sometimes need to be addressed and looked at. And so you're seeing kids that are in the dependency neglect setting, also find them in the delinquency setting. And so in that, banding together to provide culturally appropriate, non-cookie cutter services to the families is something that's very important. And once elected, something I would make sure to ensure happens.
All right. Okay. Let's go to Brother Jihad Muhammad, who used to go in quite often to the juvenile detention center, and I went in. I used to go in quite often with my brother, and some of the things that they tell us that got them to the juvenile detention center from the schoolhouse, it was like mind-boggling. I'm like, you got to be telling us a story, you know. But when you're dealing with Jefferson County, and you know, we knew the those who worked in the juvenile detention center in Jefferson County well enough to where they would tell us that, you know, no, they're not lying. For the smallest things, a lot of them was you know, sent to the courts and ended up in juvenile over some small things. Jihad, come with some of the stories, man. Some of the insight that you have from dealing with that juvenile detention center in Pine Bluff.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
first thing I think that one of the things we have to consider is that every child that ends up at the juvenile center does not actually have to be there. We have a thing that's going on in Arkansas now from the federal government. They have identified certain counties where they say black people and minorities are having too much contact with law enforcement as juveniles. So they have a thing called DMC, disproportionate minority contact. And it is supposed to be in the research phase now in terms of looking at these juveniles who are having contact with the police and then documenting what's taking place. There's supposed to be a back end of it, a portion that solutions is provided, but right now we are stuck as black people on getting the ball rolling, particularly in Jefferson County, and in terms of the funds that are available. Our sister said, that there are funds available there. There is an unlimited amount of money that's available for programs and to help our people if we are at the table. One of the problems we have is we have people who have been in the community so long, and it's a lot of politics tied up in that money. It's a lot of politics tied up in the resources that our children need. So I think one of the things we can do is we have to be watchmen and watchwomen for those organizations and those individuals who get the funds, who get the money to help our people. We need to have our nose in the business to see what they're doing with the money and make sure that everything is being done properly and correct, and to make sure that the children needs are being met. Particularly in this county, we have had people who have got a whole lot of money, and they have stole that money. They have not did what they should have done with our children. Just to be honest with you, we are expecting some of the brothers and sisters who are working a 9 to 5 to be at the schools helping when somebody else is stealing the resources. So that has to be addressed, and it has to be addressed with gloves off, because that's one of the challenges we have. Some of the same people that we've been voting for and helping and praising are the same people that's stealing money from the children. And because we have personal relationships with them, because we like them, because they have did something personally for us, oftentimes that issue goes unaddressed, So these children do not have to end up in a juvenile center. Whenever there's an issue at their school, the administrator at their school is making a decision whether to call the police or not. And when that police gets there, then that police makes the decision whether to take the juvenile to the juvenile center. When the juvenile get to the juvenile center, based upon the affidavit that's wrote, based upon the statement that the juvenile get, then the judge has the opportunity to make some decisions too. So I think one of the things we need to do when we're talking about resources, we're talking about school, we're talking about stopping the school to prison pipeline is some of us who are concerned have to be put in a position where we can be at the school and we can be mediators for the children. All right? And I'm saying it because I went to schools just like many of you all have, and I've seen confusion in the classroom, in the hallway, but there have been some of us with a pulling a youngster over to the side with a few words, we have been able to gain control. It does not make sense, in my opinion, for us to be looking to people who do not have the rapport with the children to get them on the right track. We're paying them, right? We're paying counselors, we're paying people to come to these schools, and they don't have the rapport with the children for whatever reason. They're not able to get control when they're in a position where they're supposed to be able to pull a child to the side and get control. That got to be addressed, because there's no need of throwing fundings in areas that are not being effective. That's the point I'm trying to make. All the money is going toward the people that are not being effective, and then the people who are able to get out there and go to the school every once in a while because they got a job, they're overlooked. And it's always been like this for the last 13 years. that I know of in the Pine Bluff school system. But if we are wise and we are administrators, we see somebody who knows how to go into a classroom, get a measure of control, pull a youngster to the side that's causing hell in the classroom, and get him to chill out for that day. That's a resourceful person. There's no reason why we shouldn't say, hey, let's figure out how we can put this brother or this sister in the budget and have them at the school, helping us keep everything calm and everything civil, helping us break up fights and stop fights and stuff like that. But we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that all the resources go to the people with all the titles who are not being effective. I don't agree with that. So that's one of the things we need to look at. The second thing I want to say is the education is not catered toward the child. I think our other sister, Dr. Melanie, mentioned that. When anytime a patient comes into a hospital, a patient comes into a treatment center, one of the things they do, they assess what that particular patient's or that client's need is. And the school does not do that. The schools are not equipped to do that. So when you go to the juvenile center, you're meeting children who have all type of issues that the school is not equipped to address. And even when you go and talking about alternative schools, there's not anything in place, at least in this county, to reintegrate those students back into the regular public school system. So once you go to alternative school, you're automatically labeled and you stay there until you graduate or until you, in most cases, drop out. So that needs to be, okay, when we find a student that has some issues, let's get a counselor involved, let's bring a parent in, let's figure out what's going on with that student. And then let's cater our treatment of that student toward getting them back on the right track. That's not happening. It may be not happening because the schools are too small. You have a lot of people there that are not well versed in dealing with children who have issues like that. The reality is you have a lot of children coming to school from bad situations. They're going to have issues. We got to make sure that there's something in place to pull those children to the side and address those issues. I remember 30 years ago when they had counselors that would visit the home and talk to the parent at the home. You don't got that no more. So a lot of things that they had good 20 years, 30, 40 years ago, they threw it out the window. And that's why you see the constant erosion of the constant decline. What our brother said about the cell phone, it shouldn't be no cell phones at the school, period. There was a time when we didn't have to have cell phones at the school. Why all of a sudden we got to have them now? Everybody got to have a damn cell phone at school. And there's 1,000 excuses why they need to be there. So I think, it has to be a holistic approach. There's some things that the teachers have to do different, the administrators, the parents. Everybody has to be brought to the table. It's a lot of pointing fingers right now. I do it sometimes, but there's too much pointing fingers and not enough collaboration.
All right.
And let me close by saying this. Me and Brother Kirk went to the juvenile center several years ago, and I just kind of wanted to test the waters. And so we initiated a therapy session at the juvenile center with the boys and with the girls. Before we got halfway around the circle, we had to shut the group down. Because some of the things that were coming out of those children's mouth, what they was experiencing at home, they're victims at home. When they go to school, they're victims. And then when they get in front of the judge, they're being victimized again.
Exactly.
That's at what point does it stop? We got to do something different.
So I just wanted to add emphasis real quick to some of the stuff I just heard, is that on the fact that the same children that are being neglected on the dependency neglect side of the court end up on the other side of the court, which means that we need to do a better job of providing wraparound services. There's a direct link between the lack of resources that are necessary for these children and the quality of life that leads directly to our children being criminalized. So I think it's important that we hold each other accountable, you know, from the judicial level to the school administrative level to the parent, at all levels, for what's going on with the community and our kids. Because from my experience as an attorney within the Department of Human Services and trying this approach, this wraparound services approach to community collaboration, the outcomes when we took that method was extremely more beneficial to the family. Like you have aunts, uncles, you know, cousins involved, as well as the parent collaboratively working to address the issue so that this family does not have to come back before the court in this circumstance. So to what he said, accountability is very important. Wraparound services are very important, and just, you know, not assuming that you know the problem, or assuming that a person had the skill set. Because oftentimes when we're talking about these families, we'll oftentimes talk about rehabilitate. Let's rehabilitate. But if they didn't have the skill set in the first place, how are you rehabilitating them?
That's right.
That's right. Rehabilitate them and teach them what needs to be done in order for whatever the skill set that they're lacking in the home. And additionally, and it's very important to address the needs of the parents, because even if as a judge, I recognize now from my experience in the courtroom that you can't address one person. You got to address the whole family. You can't isolate the child or mom or just dad. If you have to address you have to go back home in that setting. And if everyone is not, if the whole family is not healed, then you haven't fixed the problem.
Wow. Okay. Look, and this is from the conversation that I'm getting, and then we want to hear from Dr. Bay, who's going to express to us his dealings with a broken educational system. But what I'm hearing is we're not able to determine whether a child is getting in trouble due to mental health issues, or do that child have discipline issues. Is it a lack of discipline, or is it mental health? So how do we, and y'all be thinking about this, because, you know, after Mr. Bay explained his situation dealing with a broken system, we're gonna chime in, you know, we're gonna be quick with our chiming in, but I want to, you know, is it mental health, Marlon, you know, Melanie, you know, or is it Ms. Edwards, or is it a lack of discipline? You know, because I know it can be both. You know, I had some mental health issues because of growing up in poverty. So I understand that poverty creates a monster. You know, so I had some serious mental health issues. Or somebody growing up in a household like Marlon grew up in, with a balanced household, or what I thought was a balanced household, because mine was so broken. If he had gotten in trouble, it would have been mental health or a lack of discipline. You know, so we have to figure out what is what and how to address those two issues, because at some time it's going to be both. It's going to be mental health issues which caused a lack of discipline. But we know that the system is targeting our youth, because because when I was growing up in school, the teacher was the counselor. You know, they'll pull you to the side, they'll tell you about Jesus, they'll tell you about God, they'll tell you about a lot of different things to help you out that you may not have been getting at home. But today, teachers don't have you can't talk to them about, you know, the absence of God in your life, or, you know, well, boy, you need to go to church, or whatever the case may be, with some kind of issue. So, Ms. Johnson, we need to address that too. How do we put God back into the school system? But first of all, we want to hear from Dr. Bay, who has been dealing with the Little Rock School District for some time now. So, Mr. Bay, can you hear us?
I can hear you clear. Can you hear me?
We hear you clear.
Greetings to everyone. It's a very interesting concept that we're examining. Just to jump right into it, Brother Muhammad, Brother Kurt, it is in fact, in my opinion, that it is both. It is discipline and mental health. I believe that one will not be without the other in most cases. I learned a lot of this, and I have to give credit to my brother Marlon, it's my frat brother. He was one of the motivators of me even getting into education. I left banking to teach. Because of the impact and the lack of the melanated man, particularly in elementary education. See, I started teaching in 4th grade. None of my students had never seen a black man teacher. Okay, so that's one thing. So when we're talking about discipline in the classroom, I didn't have any discipline issues because I was a father figure. Okay, but when we're talking about this mental health thing, with having a background, having a special education master's, when you sign that paperwork dealing with your students that are identified as special ed, and they're going to identify majority of the minority as special education, but not let you know that there are programs such as 504. Okay, 504, you won't have a label and they won't have their target on your back. But if these students are identified as special education, well, a lot of these teachers don't have the capacity to even deal with these little black babies that deal with these issues that stem from home or outside the school coming to the school. But then as I hear Brother Jihad, you've made a very valid point, is that having these programs that are in place to assist these particular students. Well, IEP, which is individualized education plan, is for these students that are identified as special education, okay? Well, their IEPs are not being adhered to. Dr. Melanie, I think that you can agree with that. Okay, so then when these IEPs are not being adhered to, you don't have proper entrance, nor do you have proper exiting for these students. There's an SBIT committee. It's called the Student Behavior Intervention Team. There is a team that is supposed to be in place for these students to where when they come in, we identify the issues. I think Dr. Melanie stated that, you know, these children are going to the office for sagging their pants or something non-violent, just issues. Well, they're going to the alternative school for the same thing. I've seen students that have gone to the alternative school in the 6th grade, and I say, "What's your home school?" They say, "Dr. Bate, this is my school." They've never been to a real school. They've just been in alternative school. Marlon, I know you know exactly what I'm talking about, particularly at Hamilton. So when you have teachers like myself, and I'm not saying I'm the best, I just try to do my little part in this small thing. But when I would make reports of these things, where is this child's structure? You know, we can't, and I think it was Miss Edwards. I do agree that we have to hold these parents accountable. But what if you have that parent that was a special ed student themselves? Okay, so how are they going to be able to properly equip themselves with the proper scaffolding for their own babies? So it takes this type of conversation that we're having on here to kind of change some things. So just to get into a little bit of what I experienced is in reporting as a mandated reporter, I reported abuses to students, particularly at Henderson Middle School. Okay, they transferred me, and I don't mind saying it on here. They transferred me from Hamilton because I write documents. I record, I'm gonna look at these things and I'm gonna make an assessment and I'm gonna report these things as a mandated reporter. Well, what happens as mandated reporters? Well, we get retaliated against, right? We get demoralized in front of colleagues, okay? So I went to Henderson. Same thing happened in Henderson. We're making these reports. Well, I'm the problem. I'm an angry black man. I'm intimidating. You know, I'm this and I'm that, which they're using this colorful language to me just the same way they use that colorful language to our black boys. Okay, so it's some of the same things. So I think one of the issues is how do we safeguard the teachers that are attempting to do the proper thing by these students for our community, for our people? You know, what are some of those safeguards? I worked down at Pine Bluff. I was down at the high school, and I was down at Jack Roby. Okay, I worked in the special education department under Miss Howard. It's the exact same thing. It's horrible down there. You can't make proper reports. The Arkansas Department of Education, Dr. Gardenhire, he was down there telling these people, telling your student body, I mean, not your student body, your PTA president, not to make these reports with these students, okay? So I've seen it firsthand to where the system will come in and will push you away from the track that you're supposed to be on doing the proper reporting and the right thing. So to you, Judge Johnson, we've got to identify these issues on the reporting is happening. They're brushing these reports under the rug. I have a lawsuit right now. It's been for 6 years now. They can't dismiss it. There's too many facts in the case. But when I go to make a report, I lost all my livelihood, foreclosed on my home, my vehicles repoed. I'm talking about character assassination. It went from sugar to crap. You understand what I'm saying? So what do we do? What do we do with that? I don't want to sit up here and be on no wine and cheese story, this, that, and other that happened to me, because I believe that God put me in that place to have to experience those things. Because if I not gone through those things, I wouldn't be on this panel today to be able to communicate with you all. So I appreciate even being here to provide some input. But what are we gonna do? We've got to do something, and I'm not talking about yesterday. I'm talking about now. Let's see here. We can't wait for white folks to get on board with what we're doing. And some of these black folks, we got to push them off board because some of our own people are in the way. And we got to be able to identify that too. All us ain't us. And that's a hard pill to swallow, but we got to move forward. Let's see here. The mentor programs for students and parents. When we start doing for ourselves, when we establish our own school, our own infrastructures, our own hospitals, and it's not that difficult. We can do this, and that'll be another topic for another day. But when we start doing for self, we will see a much better change in the way our babies look, and their dreams that are going to be fulfilled, and the destiny that God has already bestowed upon us, okay? All we got to do is work. I'm sorry, I can't hear nobody. Am I muted?
That was excellent.
Okay. All right, I'm done, good people. Sorry.
That was excellent. My first college experience was when my sister invited me to do a chaperoning. Dr. Melanie invited me because I grew up on the other side, dealing with poverty and alcoholism and drug addiction, violence, emotional disorder. I dealt with all of that, and the only thing that saved me was when I came into the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I was able to identify with what I was missing, and what I was missing was an identity. And when I could link that identity to something outside of America, it helped me start to heal to where I could actually accept America. Now I'm no longer. I still, those demons still live. They're still there, but I rise so high above them to where it don't really affect me, but I'm able to identify demons in my young brothers and my young sisters because I am them and they are me. So that's why I'm always looking for ways and means to help them. So now we have people that's that's also here that were not panelists, but they may want to say something. So, but I want to ask the panelists. We jump in whenever you want to jump in, jump out. We want to be brief, we want to be straight to the point, and we want to move as quick as possible. Are we dealing with mental health or issues or a lack of discipline? That's a question to anybody.
Well, I'll say we are dealing with both. As the other brother was speaking before, we are dealing with both, and we no longer, as a whole, now there's a trend, an upward trend towards social emotional learning. So you're seeing an increase of engagement from teachers on the importance of integrating social emotional learning into their everyday curriculum. But you gotta think of it like this. Even though we do as much as we can as teachers in the school system, and when we have the students, they do leave and go to a different environment. And everybody's environment is not a horrible environment, but everybody goes home to a different home life. Right. And so those values and the things that they have in their homes, some of them may match up more than we may think, but then some of them may not. Expression piece of how you express when you're feeling a certain way. Those expression pieces we tend to forget, because if a child sees their mom in the street yelling, cussing people out, that's normal. So then my response is going to be to do what's normal, unless I'm one of those children who is tapped into that part of them that says, I know better. I can feel I can feel that spirit in me telling me that's not right. And some kids can tap in earlier than others, but others have to be taught, hey, you know that that's not right to do, despite what they see all the time at home. So long story short, it's both pieces. But as educators, I believe we have an obligation to not just want our students to achieve academically, but we need them to achieve emotionally and socially, because everything they learn in the classroom is for when they go out. That's the purpose. It's not just so you can be smart at school. It should be so you can be smart in life. Right. But we're not teaching our kids how to be smart in life, and we're only looking at formulas and things that to them they're not going to see a use for when they graduate, because that may not be their field. We
Right.
gotta hook them in with knowing that we care. Students will learn more from teachers that they feel like love them and care. I had kids who other teachers be like, can you please talk to so-and-so because he won't do my work. I'm pepping them up to go do work in another teacher's class. I don't have that problem with so-and-so. He does what I ask him to do.
Right.
So, and that doesn't mean every student is, but we make a decision in that classroom. Okay, if this is not what you want to do, let's get a parent on the line and see if that's what they agree that you should be doing. And most time that works. That's why I like middle schoolers. They ain't too grown yet. They're a little scared still. So they'll, they get back together quick. So, that's the answer to that for me.
Okay. Next, jump in. Marlon, Brother Kenny,
Hello. Can you hear me?
Dr. Flowers.
Miss Flowers.
Miss Flowers.
Hey,
I just seen
I'm sorry. I wish I was a doctor, but I'm not. But I am a licensed social worker. So I'm gonna just give you a brief background of me. So I got about over 23 years of experience working with at-risk youth, working in the projects, working at a homeless shelter, and doing special investigations for Pulaski County juvenile court services. So I want to address two questions. Your first question that you had, if you don't mind, if I go back, was changes that are needed in school. So to address that question first, looking at the changes that are needed in school, if you look at the school to the prisoner pipeline, that right there states that they're coming from the school entity. And I think, like Dr. Bates said, there's problems that are there in the school. And, if it's reported for child abuse, then, they get retaliated against. But my thing is, look at the policies, because once a child gets in trouble at school and then they're part of the criminal justice system, then those policies need to be looked at and say, okay, what can we do to make a change with these policies? Because if a kid is sent to like a behavior modification school, and I'm saying that because that's my language, then just for sagging pants, then there's something wrong with their policy. And so if a teacher sends a child to the office because of that, no, that's not acceptable. And that's not a method of discipline for them. So with that, I'm looking at the policies in the schools that impact our children and will send them, like a pathway, a roadmap to prison. Okay, look at those policies. Look at the criminal on the other side. Look at the criminal justice policies, the policies that we have in place, not policies, but at that point, they're laws. Look at the laws, look how they impact our youth and go from there. I don't know if anybody assessed the laws that are written in place that impacts our youth, youth before 18. Okay. Now, the other thing that you said was it mental health or discipline? Now, in my experience, you can't just have mental health and discipline. You got social influences, you got criminal activity, gang violence, you got children that are hungry. You got children that are being sexually abused. There are a lot of components to our children. So in order to look at that, I can't say it's all mental health. I can't say it's discipline, because there are other things. There are other things that impact our youth. Now, I'm one that look at, okay, we know we got a problem. We know we've been talking about it for a long time. Now, what are the actions that we take so that we can address the issues? These are my comments. And listen, and I heard a lot of information. All of it was very well, very good, very helpful. But what can we do to help our children? Now, with that being said, just a little personal side of me, I adopted my little cousin. He's actually my second cousin. I got him when he was 10 years old. He could not read. He couldn't read. He didn't even know Dr. Seuss book level, okay? He could not spell. Now, this child was 10 years old, and I knew him all his life, but I never knew the other part of you know, what his educational level. And by 11 years old, the Little Rock Police Department policeman killed his father. So you look at, he got a learning disability, he got mom on drugs, then his father got murdered, and then I have a child here that I have to help become adult, because you got to raise them to become an adult, not to remain a child. The outcome was he's doing good right now. His reading level, you know, I had several tutors. I went through tutors after tutors. But the outcome is he's 20, he's doing good, he's a productive citizen. As far as criminal activity, he ain't in jail. He did get arrested once, but you know, all of that other things, and it was because of the resources that I had and some of the things that I learned to do. But mom, no parenting skills, that she didn't. She could have learned if she wanted to, but that wasn't a priority. So we got kids in the system whose parents, I think somebody mentioned that the parents, you know, the parents need help, but the parents may not want to help. So how do these kids survive and work their way through life to move on and move forward? So that's my comment.
And man, Ms. Flowers, Ms. Johnson was saying that, talking about the rehabilitation, you know, it's impossible. And I've been saying it for years, you know, because of the, they said, you know, the institution have rehabilitation programs. But me, I was reading as an adult on the 4th grade level at 23, you know.
Wow.
So how can you rehabilitate somebody that needs habilitating? And
Right.
teaching the most automated Muhammad, when I tell you the first thing that I learned I could call words, but the first thing that I learned how to read and I got me a dictionary. I was on administrative segregation for the assault officer in 1997. And all that I had was my brother got me a final cost of scripture, and I had a dictionary and a Holy Bible. And I started looking up every word. I wanted to understand what I was reading. I had plenty of time, so I started to look up every word and started to learn to pronounce it. And you'll hear me right now pronouncing words incorrectly.
Right.
But you know, that's why I am so adamant about helping young people who are on that path, because a lot of times we're embarrassed to even admit that we don't know. You know,
Exactly.
so I've had all these illness, you know, and that's why I am rooted in my belief system that change is possible. A lot of people may not have had to go through what I've went through to get to where I'm at today, but I understand that change is possible, and that's why when I was invited to sit down with Miss Johnson, who, when the brother told me that she was running for the an area that dealt with our juveniles, I said, let me sit down with this sister and have a conversation with her. But I brought the educators and I brought the mental health professions here so that we can help fashion or form a mindset that she can, you know, we can troubleshoot it a little bit better than me, because, you know, I'm just one of who was a part of a broken system, but to help the sister to see where she's at. And one thing that I liked about her was that she was not from Arkansas. She's originally from Brooklyn, New York, and she's 32 years old. She's been here 10 years, you know, so that was a plus for me because of the mindset. You know, a lot of us here, we get our children, our youth. I don't want to deal with them. You know what I'm saying? Every day. I mean, that's just what I don't want to do every day. But because we are some troubled people, and me dealing with my brothers and sisters who are broken caused me to reflect on a lot of my pangs and a lot of my sufferings, you know, so I deal with them. I try to create avenues for them to get the help that they need, and I do go out and do what I can. So we're going to have to most definitely continue this. I most definitely wanted to be after we figure out, we know now that we've narrowed it down that we have mental health, social influences, lack of discipline. We have all kind of issues, but how do we come together and address them? You know, Ms. Johnson is going into an area, the 10th district, which is a poverty-stricken, low education in Riceville. We got Ms. Johnson, what area is Riceville?
Well, the people who can vote for the seat are people who live only in Wrightsville, East End, Dixie, downtown, South End, where else? England. Those are the people who can vote, but the actual seat has jurisdiction of all of Pulaski County and all of Perry County juveniles. And so I think it's important to note that light is the best disinfectant, okay? And so that we must continue to shine a light on our kids and have more community-minded people, not just in the schools, but also in the criminal justice system, because we have to continue to speak out. And not only speak out, we have to continue to also put in the work ourselves to get the job done, because just talking about it is not going to fix the problem. You know, also being prepared to do some work, and even if you're the only one pushing the needle at that moment, until you can, you know, bring more people behind you to support you to get it done. Because there was a recent study where, if I remember correctly, they said that 56% of the people in state jail have mental health issues, and 64% of them have mental health issues, right? And so we need to destigmatize the stigma associated with mental health, especially within the Black community. Because when you asked earlier whether or not it's mental health or discipline, I do believe that it's both. And I believe that the mental health component, to me, is a very component to, like, when we're addressing families, you can't just have a list of 10 or 20 things that a person or that a family needs to address. You need to triage these issues so that they can solve these problems in pieces. And mental health being a very important component, because your mind and your has the power to get, it's critical for your decision making. It's you know, it motivates you to get things done. It's problem solving. It's just having the energy and spirit to move forward. And I think that that's something that definitely needs to be addressed and not ignored when we are meeting the needs of the families within the court system and the school system.
Ms. Johnson, we would like to bring you back. I would like to have a second part to this and have a host, Brother Kenny, Dr. Melanie, and Marlon to help me co-host our next meeting, maybe 2-3 weeks from now, if y'all will agree to that, because it's very important. It's very important that we start now while we have we can look at the school system and tell the school system is declining, right? You know, I mean, in Jefferson County, they've shut down a lot of schools, you know, and things are changing. You know, I don't know. I just heard on the radio not too long ago about some children going to school on Tuesdays and Fridays, other one going to school on Mondays and Thursdays, 2 days out of a week. So we need to, and the sister was saying that we need to address, and Brother Kenny and Melanie was saying that we need to start educating our own children, you know, and implementing the culture, our own culture into the school system, you know, because maybe we're preparing them for something that they'll never be able to get ready for, you know, and it's just a lot that can be done, sis. So whatever you can do when you get in position to help the cause, you know, because my thing is, after getting in the seat, what do you do? How do you reach out and use the resources that's going to be available to help us who will develop the programs or promote the ideal that we need to address these mental health issues before we send a child to any juvenile detention center? We need to most definitely address the mental health issues, because a Marlon gets them after the fact. You know, if they're not getting what they need at home, how do we address that issue? If the parents have mental health issues, right, and they're not locking the parents up, they're locking the children up for the issues that the parents have, you know, passed on down to the children. So I mean, when it's dealing with our children, it's a lot that needs to be done, you know. But my thing is, what can we do in a collaborated effort to make something happen? One sitting back doing nothing means the problem only gets worse. So it's just the hour, you know. Marlon was saying Black Lives Matter. Soon as my thing is Black Life Matter, you know, making it an individual thing. Black lives in the whole, we project out, but we need to start projecting inwardly, because Black life matter. How do I treat myself, Melanie?
Yeah, so
Dr. Melanie.
Oh, you're okay. In thinking to your question, also ask the question, what are those outcomes? What do you want those outcomes to be? So when you're asking the question, how can we do this thing? What does that specifically look like? What does a successful school really look like? What does a school that is meeting the needs of all of the students and the families, what does that look like, and how are those families benefiting from that?
Right.
So that would be a starting point in addressing our concern for our children in our school system, is to think, well, what does it need to look like? If it's not this, then what is it?
Right. That's the truth.
Brother Muhammad, can I make a comment?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, just to add on to what that sister just said, plus also a community resource center. It's just like this. You got a kid, they may be hungry. They go in the store and steal something to eat, and then boom, they get caught. They in the system. So we need, with the extension of a good school, our school, then we would need a community resource center for them where they can learn some survival skills or obtain, you know, something to eat or something. So it's a lot to it, but not just that. We also need to educate our kids about this judicial system too.
Yes, ma'am. We have, and my thing is, we have a lot of resources, but people are misappropriating the resources. You know,
right.
So that is one of the things. We have Sister Michelle, who is an educator, and who is Brother Kenny's wife. She's on. Sister Michelle, is there something that you would like to add? Because I know she was mentioning one time to me about how could we help the black males in her school. You know, but it's almost impossible to actually help. You know, if the system is set to where it won't allow you to help. So, Sister Michelle, you have something you would like to say?
Mr. Kirk, this is Dorothy. I'm gonna get off the phone here, but I really have enjoyed everything that I've heard, Mr. Kirk. You know, you are a go-getter.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
I listened to Mr. Marlon, Mary Edwards, Mr. Brock, Miss Johnson, Melanie, Miss D. Flowers. I listened to everybody and I took notes. Now my job is I'm just sitting on the sideline. I follow Mr. Kirk. My job is, now that I've heard everything, I wrote down and took notes. It'll be up here on my prayer altar, and that's where I'll be praying about these conditions and about these concerns. And I had a wonderful time listening in, and y'all have a blessed night. Good night.
You as well, Ms. Holloway. And I'm gonna hit you up on Messenger too. I got your message, my dear sister.
Hey,
Okay,
Mr.
thank
Muhammad.
you.
Yes, sir. Brian.
I want. Yeah, how you doing? I want to share something with y'all as well before we get off of here.
Right.
My name is Brian Cal. I've been a coach down here in Pine Bluff for over 15 years. You know, I've been dealing with kids that's gone off to college and everything as well. But one of the things that I'm seeing with the kids that really don't make it out of here, I'm seeing the bad parents. You know what I'm saying? The bad, you got parents, you know, a kid might have an incident at school. You have a parent come up there trying to fight with the kid. I done had a parent before I had a kid on my team. I tell all the kids on my team, hey, you get in trouble, they just like getting in trouble here. You ain't paying attention in here. Well, make me think you're paying attention at school, or you paying attention to your parents, or whatever. So I just do pop-ups, you know what I'm saying? I do pop-ups on Wednesdays because that's my off day, as usual. I do pop-ups, you know. I had one parent, man, literally get mad at me for going to the school, checking on her son. That is not your issue. Your issue is, I say, hey, it takes a village to raise these child. I'm just trying to, you know what I'm saying, do some extra service for our children. At the end of the day, these are our children. They affect how we're going to live in the future.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So I think there's a lot of parenting issues I think need to be attacked real hard. Because, you know, nowadays you got your grandma, you got the grandma still going to the club. You got the mama letting the cell phone raise the video game. I mean, I see it hardcore, man. I'm here in the trenches. I see it. You know what I mean?
That's the truth, bro.
So basically, man, it's like everything y'all said, man, is real. But I feel like the mental issues, I don't think it's just so. I think it's just parents are really not teaching their kids nothing.
Mm.
I'm
Right.
just being real.
Yes, sir. All right, Mr. All right,
Hey,
Brother
Kurt.
Cal.
Kurt.
Uh,
Hey,
Yes.
Kurt.
Yes.
So I see we coming from a couple of different angles here. So
Right. Okay. Right.
I speak in Dermont, Alexander Juvenile, Dermont Juvenile. I volunteer in the Little Rock School District, North Little Rock School District, Pulaski County. The thing that I understand that works is when I create a relationship with a young man or a young
Mm.
woman to the point to where they even call my phone to this day. Now, I
Right.
haven't been to Dermont in probably about a year now. I've been to Alexander about 6 months ago. So I have kids who call me, who talk to me about things that they can't talk about at home. Now, the one thing I stress with them is the discipline that it takes to deal with their parents that's doing something absolutely wrong. Now, don't get it twisted. The problem is at home. Don't get it twisted. But we can't really change every parent. However, every kid that comes in contact with me, I'm going to love them as much as I can, him or her, in that time that I have them, to do the best I can with them. Now, I know you got Miss Johnson. She's running for what she's running for. But the thing of it is, I heard two guys. I think it was the last guy that spoke, and I think his brother Jahai, and I may miss somebody, Marlon too. Y'all got to put the monsters in there. And I'm talking about the people that's first of all, this is what I love to do. It ain't even, this is bigger than me. I didn't have an option. If I don't do it, like the Little Rock School District is where I started, I actually sent out a tag a teacher. Teacher just hit me up on Facebook. I go and speak to the class for free. I wasn't looking for no money or nothing. That's because I'm really in it. This is, if I don't do it, I'm gonna feel some type of way, regardless how anybody feels about me. So these are the guys, the real ditch diggers. We gotta go in there, and I don't get it twisted. We still gotta create parent and teacher relationships where the parent and teacher is on the same page. I think we need to work on that. The parents that want to do better, we have to have a place for them to go. Some parents don't want to do better. The ones that want to, they need a phone number that they can call. They need a place that they can go. They need people where they can receive love. But some parents have mental health issues and they don't know how to be a good parent, but they do want the best for their child. So it's a good order of discipline, because when you talk about love, you're talking about accountability, you're talking about respect, you're talking about discipline. In order to truly love somebody, it's accountability and discipline are two of the key ingredients inside of it.
You're right.
So the guys that's down in Pine Bluff, man, please, man, Pine Bluff is a place I've been trying to get into that I haven't. Man, hit me up on the inbox. Let's get something going immediately. I'm talking about the ditch diggers. The ones that's really in the trenches, the ones really talking to the kids. And then, Miss Johnson, whatever you need us to do, let us know so we can help you. And then you do your work up there and let the ditch diggers do the ditch digging. Later, that's what I want to do. Because I don't know a lot about the whole process. But go ahead.
That sounds awesome, man. We're going to have to get off here in a brief second, but this is what I want us to come back. And I want, if Melanie and Brother Kenny and Marlon will help me host the next one, and have Ms. Johnson back so that we can continue asking questions. Marlon, his wife, is an educator as well. So we want to, but next time we're going to have this to where, what my brother, Mr. Robinson, Mondale, well, he's going to help us make sure that we run this Facebook Live, because
yes, sir. Let's do it.
Involved and engaged, you know. So my brother, hit me with your number so that I can reach out to you and make sure that we get this thing right in a few weeks. We want to come back in a few weeks and do this thing again, but we want to do a lot because this was excellent. This was beautiful. And the information, it seemed like the information, everybody that was on here flowed well together. Melanie, are you saying something, dear sister? Okay, so it seemed
Talking to children.
Okay, okay. It seemed like it flowed well. So, Ms. Johnson, we want you to close us out so that we can get out. When Hell to People was supposed to end at 6:30, 12 minutes over. but we will be back, God willing, in a few weeks. And we want to, as Sister Melanie was saying that we want to, you know, what does our school system need to look like if what it look like now is not the appropriate look, you know, and we want to figure out how, Marlon, that we can develop a system that help curve children who don't have the parents at home that's going to help them reach the goals that they need to reach. And we also want to figure out as far as Raymond was talking about, because I know he's the love doctor. He like to love on people. So,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So we want to figure this thing out, man. You know, as Brother Kenny was saying, it's about it's with self, being able to identify with self. How do we coordinate with all of the information that we have and make it a functioning unit? You know, how do we do that? And maybe Ms. Johnson will be able to help us get the resources we don't have. We'll make some cut a trail or a path down through there so that we can now. So Ms. Johnson, after you finish saying what you have to say, dear sister, we're going to close out, but we're going to bring this back and we're going to go live, God willing, in a Facebook Live in a few weeks. You know, so what would you have to say to all that you've heard, dear sister, as far as you helping us help our children curve this school or stop up or break the school to prison pipeline?
Okay. Well, first I would like to say that I would definitely love to come back. And the thing that I would do, one of the main points of as far as my vision for the courtroom going forward is collaboration with the community and state agencies. And so once elected, community voices will have a voice in my courtroom. And it's important as far as mental health is concerned that there's been a study of adverse childhood experiences, and that Arkansas as a state nationally had 60% of Arkansas youth have experienced at least one adverse childhood experience, which are things like neglect, mental health issues in the home, having a death of a parent, incarcerated parent, things like that. And so just being cognizant of having holistic approaches, having culturally appropriate services offered to the youth and families, and a voice for the parents and the children that are involved before the system are very important to my campaign and platform. And just, I mean, I know we talked a little bit about me running for 10th Division. The position I'm running for is 10th Division Circuit Court Judge. I am currently in a runoff, which is set to occur on November 3rd, 2020. Early voting starts October 19th. And I look forward to hearing more about you guys' concerns going forward, and any proposed solutions and how you would like to impact and be involved with the court going forward to provide resources to our youth and their families.
Awesome, dear sister. Awesome. And I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today, because I know Saturday evenings, I mean, we work all through the week, and then here comes Saturday, somebody want to talk about what's going on, you know, but I tried to bring to people together that have a passion for what we're talking about, because, you know, if you got a passion for something, it's not really work. It's just a momentum to get done what we need done. So I appreciate everybody for coming on here this evening, and I hope that we'll be able to do this again in a few weeks with Melanie, Brother Kenny, and Dr. Melanie, Brother Kenny, and my brother Marlon to help co-host this thing and to guide it, because we'll have run it Facebook Live. I just enjoyed the information, and I really appreciate y'all. And having said that, we'll be looking to collaborate in a few weeks. And thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
So,
right.
thank you, brother.
Thank you,
Right.
Brother Kerr.
Good job.
Thank you, dear sister. Yes, ma'am.
All right.
All right,
All right,
Marlon.
All right,
Raymond.
boss.
All right, homeboy. Miss Edwards.
All right. We'll
All
talk.
right, everybody.
Thank you.